Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your time. My name is 𝙤𝙧𝙧𝙚. I am the GM for CY2 US. I'm joined by my colleague Ernst La Haye, who's the managing director of the company and runs the European operation. And then we're very privileged to have Carole Darche, who is one of our customers. She's the head of administrative applications from INSEAD, one of the foremost business schools actually around the world. They've got campuses in 4 different regions of the globe. And obviously, Carole, as a customer, has been working with us for some time, and she will be talking about INSEAD's implementation of continuing education, the subject of this webinar, using campus solutions and working with CY2 to make that happen. Some session management. Everybody is in mute-only mode. However, we do want to keep this interactive, so I would encourage you to use the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. Go ahead and type in your questions, and instead of waiting until the end, we will make sure that we answer those questions as you ask them, so that we're answering them relevantly. The session is being recorded. We'll make the recording available with a link to our YouTube channel, and we'll send that out in a post-session email to everybody, probably tomorrow or at the latest Friday. I think I'm going to go ahead and start. Again, thank you. We're going to keep this to an hour or less. The agenda is we will do a brief intro. I'm going to turn it over to Carole, who will talk about the INSEAD implementation, and then we'll do a live poll. We'd love to know what you guys are doing as far as continuing ed. And then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Ernst, who will kind of pull back the covers on our continuing ed solution and actually do a pretty extensive live demo. So who is CY2? For those of you that don't know us, we've been around for quite a while, arguably the top consultancy and solutions development in the EU. And obviously, as I said, we are bringing our solutions and services to the US market. We recently attended Alliance and found that to be an excellent venue and hopefully got a lot of interest. We've done hundreds of projects. We are a campus solutions only consultancy and solutions development company. So I would say there's probably not an organization on the planet that has the depth in campus solutions, both functional and technical, that we do. We offer a number of solutions. Today we're going to be talking about continuing education. So just to set this up, and this is going to be a sort of a completely different view than most of you understand about campus solutions. Campus solutions is typically, your student information system supporting enrollment and management of a student life within your institution. What we've done is we've reconfigured campus solutions so that it is a transactional system where someone, and it doesn't need to be a student, I mean, obviously will become a student, but it's somebody that's interested in taking a course transactionally rather than as part of a program of enrollment and graduation. So just to wrap your heads around, basically what this is a transactional system where a person purchases a product.
Hendrik, we're not seeing slide 3. We are seeing slide 1. Just actually saying.
So you can't see that slide?
No, we're seeing slide 1. We're not seeing slide 3.
Interesting. Well, let me do this. Let me do this. Can you see the basic concept slide now?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, let's do that. So I'm sorry, everyone, and thanks for interrupting, Ernst, but basically to reiterate, this is a complete reimagining of campus solutions so that it's transactional in nature, that a person can go on a website and buy a product. So it's, you know, you guys do it in your personal lives every day. This is a see buy experience where you see a course, you buy it, and then you attend the course. From the student perspective, again, I'm reiterating, but you know, on the left mobile device is a list of courses. In the middle is the student is buying the social media marketing course, and then the mobile device on the right is showing that the student is going to be attending, has signed up, and will attend social media marketing. So that's the setup to all of this. And please feel free to ask questions. Ernst will get into more of the details as we move forward. Carole, may I turn this over to you?
You're going to have to click the slides, Hendricks.
Yes.
You're still on slide 3.
There's something going on with GoToWebinar because I'm on the. I don't know what's going on here. Hold on.
Hi, everybody.
All right, there we go. Hi, here we go. All right, there we go. I'm just going to click each slide individually. Sorry, Carole, it's all yours.
Yeah, it's okay. Hi, everybody. INSEAD is a business course with 4 campuses, and we have all the international complexity in terms of financial need, billing system, for example, tax authority regulation to apply. And we acquired PeopleSoft in 2006. I met CY2 in 2010, and we started to develop a lot on PeopleSoft, upgrading every year. And in 2023, we still the core system of the school with the latest version, and still giving the referential to more than 10 interfaces connecting to this core system, managing student, invoicing, faculties, courses, and alumni as well. We have a traditional student, like accredited program named MBA, EMBA. There are of 1,300 students every year coming on campus. We can as well have half of our revenue coming from the executive education, more than 10,000 people a year. And we have the company-specific program, which are programs sold to one company and where we can onboard 1,000 to 5,000 participants for a course. So in total, every year, we have 20,000 participants. In 2019, beginning 20, we were really touched deeply by the COVID. Our executive program dropped completely. We turned to in-person program into virtual programs, fully digitalized, electronic. Our customers were complaining to pay a huge price for degraded services. So we had really to move quickly. I started to work with Ernst and say I cannot keep PeopleSoft. So we'll say with a lack of agility on the way we were onboarding people and invoicing them. Slide. So we decided to create a new way to sell the executive program first. So this one is the first way to buy our online program. I think, no, you went too fast, but it's okay. So we still have certain selling on existing programs, so those one, and they still go for PeopleSoft. And then we decided to create pure online program with a lower price, 1,900 euro. And because there were, I would say, cheap program, but still proposed to new customers that could come for bigger program, we wanted to sell them quickly. So if you go to the next slide, We could extend the product portfolio with those pure online program with a cheaper product, adding more electronic product to it. We could onboard quicker, but by the work we did from 2020, and they could see what we wanted to sell, buy it, and get it. We were still challenged by certain company saying that we want to anonymize the student identity. It was possible with PeopleSoft, so we could keep signing our contract with those military and public sector clients. And finally, but the biggest part for me was the billing and taxation, because we were under the French regulation, the European market regulation as well, and we needed to create or generate a billing system applying the right tax for electronic product across our 4 campuses, France, Middle East, Europe, and Singapore. And that's what I will show you now. So you arrived on our website and you start to be a buyer. So here it's a bit of marketing, and you arrived on the portal in slide 10, where you can select one of the cheapest products we have. So it's like a cart. And those products are created in PeopleSoft in a catalog and pushed here. So you select it, you enter the price. So this is the selection part. And then you can still, if you want, have the previous program with an admission process, but here you just pay and there's no admission. You arrive directly to the invoice part of PeopleSoft. So I think the 11th slide is the admission process that we still work for older program, more expensive, where we want to select people. But from 10 to 12, you arrived immediately to the billing part, where you get the invoice generated automatically with the right information, because there is an intelligence based on the type of courses, the type of client, and the collection, the campus collecting the revenue. So once you go to the next slide, you can see that automatically I got my VAT applied, and I still can change it. If you go a mass process and your invoices are very basic, they are all automatically generated. But if there is certain things you want to check, you can stop the process and say, I still want to see what has been applied automatically with the intelligence put in PeopleSoft by configuration, and change the VAT because I disagree, something went wrong, or it's something we forgot to set up. So we can still change as many times as we want. And finally, now we are ready, we can print it. So I think if you go to so what's the setup of the VAT role, the intelligence I'm talking about, where you can decide based on which criteria you apply the rate, the VAT percentage that you can see from the bottom line 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20% is what you can apply when you follow the rules that has been entered in this screen. So if you see, for example, that this is an education type open, so that means for us executive programs, you have to pay for sure taxes. We know this, it's not accredited program. When you see that this is an in-person program, you have as well electronic, we decide to give you the percentage or no. So we have a type of program detection based on this mode to say it's an in-person or it's an electronic product. You can see that we have the campus saying, oh, this is INSEAD France collecting the revenue. So we can detect as well what regulation we need to apply. And here it's a French regulation, which is becoming strict in 1st September, January 2025. So we are already ready to follow this new regulation. And there's other criteria that you can use to decide to apply this rule or not. So this is very handy. Here, that's where you can, in the next slide, 15, you can decide to generate the invoice or not, the print invoice, based on what you have entered in this screen. Obviously, you have the person invoice, but I could generate a customer invoice without third-party contract anymore. We were able with Ernst and his team to get rid of certain very heavy process in PeopleSoft, like the admission port and the the third-party contract, which was mandatory to have a company invoice. Now you don't need anymore. And the beauty, those figures that you see here are still filling the student financial module. So I still use all the capability of PeopleSoft for finance tracking, but I get rid of the complexity to still admit, to still have a third-party contract is done automatically without I do anything. And at the end, I have my print invoice that I can see in the 16, which is quite basic one here. You see that we apply the VAT. We have all the academic information stored in PeopleSoft, and we are ready now to move on with a student who has access to his courses and see his invoice quickly.
Carole, is that the end of your segment?
It is.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it. And I think now what we're going to do is I am going to launch a poll. We would certainly appreciate it if everybody would respond so that we can then display the results as to kind of what's going on, at least with the attendees here, about who's doing what to support continuing ed, or maybe you're not offering it at all. And I'll go ahead. I'll leave the poll open for a little bit longer. We've got about half the folks who have voted. Just give me half a second, and then I'll close. Maybe a little bit more than half a second, and I'll close the poll. I think we're good. I think we've got almost everybody voted. So I'm going to go ahead and share the results. This is fantastic. So quarter using third party, about 40% each on custom, bespoke, and 40% campus solutions. It's nice everybody is offering continuing ed. Ernst, I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Hendrik. Hello, good afternoon, or good day, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thanks, Carole, for explaining. It's been quite a challenging time for INSEAD, and I've been very happy to been able to work with Carole and her team to help out on the administrative side of changing a complete business model for a university, or in this case, business school, from a little amount of people for a high price to a large amount of people for a far lower price. So that's been quite a challenge, and the continuing education solution certainly has helped. I wanted to speak a bit about what the actual, let's say, technology and background and building blocks of the tool are, and then of course actually afterwards show it to you in the system for real. Now, the building blocks of program enrollment, the building blocks, excuse me, of continuing education are actually 4 pieces. We actually utilize standard functionality from program enrollment, standard functionality from campus community, standard functionality from event management in campus community, as well as student financials, to manage the whole process of a person buying a product, enrolling onto the product, and actually getting grades on that product, and if necessary, even certification actually is possible within this model as well. Everything that we do is in campus. We integrate to other systems, but in essence, the tool itself actually is part of campus. It is very important to mention that it actually coincides or coexists, excuse me, with standard programs, as we call them, seamlessly. It is working next to, let's say, your degree education, and as it's actually managed by PeopleTools technology, it is easily extendable. It's highly configurable anyway, but as actually sometimes these things go, it is also easily extendable for institutions themselves to have specific business rules and specific logic around particular pieces of the puzzle here. We have a product catalog. We are going to talk about that later as well. We're utilizing the 3 C's. We're utilizing student financials. We're utilizing event management. And with all of that together, we actually are able to manage the whole process for the education of a student without, I may say, without actually ever entering an application, ever actually creating a program and a plan stack, ever doing a term enrollment and or term activation as such. So no admissions, no student records, no enrollment on classes, but still we are able to actually manage everything from applying, enrolling, getting grades, getting certified, paying for your education. All of that is managed, but we actually skipped out all the pieces that are not really relevant for this kind of education and therefore actually are no longer needed. Now, because we're in campus solutions, there's more that we can do than just actually these 4 building blocks. Because you're in campus, lots of things that you have for your, I would say, quote, quote, normal students or your degree seeking students, those things are actually already in your system anyway. Integrations to your learning management system, integration to your Active Directory, integration to your library systems, integration to your CRM, user accounts, self-service, invoicing. All of those things are actually there because you're in campus anyway. So you can actually utilize lots of functionality and extensions and integrations that you've already built in the years to actually service this particular population of people next to your degree seeking students, so to say. And I think that's very important in the context of saying, okay, we are enabling people to do a far smarter, I would dare to say, and far simpler administrative process, while still keeping in place all of the benefits of all the things that actually have been built and discovered and done over the years within Campus Solutions to actually manage your degree students. So we're skipping lots of steps in the business process, but we're not skipping the fact that there's actually lots of functionality and availability of integrations and extensions in the system that you may want to actually take advantage of for this population as well. Now, because of the fact that, if we skip to 20, please. So
Ernst, there's a question. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Of course, sorry. No, please do. Sorry.
Yep, asking about 3C notifications.
Yes. So we use the 3C notifications as well as the notification framework from Campus Solutions. The 3Cs, we're actually utilizing an administrative function that exists for Dutch customers and that we actually are also using for our product transactions. So we are managing the product transactions with an administrative function that is already existent in the system. And we are utilizing as well the notification framework from Campus Solutions in those circumstances where the person is not a real student yet and therefore doesn't have an employee. So we did not customize the 3Cs, but we are utilizing them, yes. Now, one thing is very important in this whole concept, I would dare to say. The fact that if we look at continuing education and the way that institutions offer this, is that they have a variation of ways of how this continuing education information reaches the people doing the administration. There are application forms, maybe in Campus Solutions or outside of Campus Solutions. There are files that are coming in explaining that these 30 managers need to do a particular course. That there you only get a first name and a last name and an email address, for instance, but you're getting a file that needs to be processed and get into the continuing education model for these managers to be able to actually study their course. There may be a web service integration to another system that actually serves as the front-end application for getting particular information. You may be discussing particular sales for these kinds of products through a CRM system whereby you're entering some of the information in the CRM and then you actually would like to load the transactions that you have prepared in your CRM system into the continuing education model. So an API is actually available to actually let you load transactional data through a web service integration into the continuing education model. And of course, As always, you also need to be able to actually manually enter a new transaction into the system as such. So we've designed the whole model in a way that you are actually able to manage the information coming into the model in different ways, so that you are not stuck with one particular way of working. You are actually free to use the information as you like and get it into your system. Now, if you look at that from an architectural point of view, you'll see that actor, as we actually call them, an actor actually can access information about these courses, about these products, whatever they may be, pre-recorded content, a coaching conversation for a number of weeks, a course, an event, a meeting that you have with a particular professor that you would love to meet and actually have a discussion about your company with, and so on and so on and so on. It doesn't have to be a course, people. It's a product. It can be anything you would like to sell as an educational institution to a particular person who is interested in this particular product. Those people will come to you in different ways. They will come to you through a website. On the website, maybe click a button, and with that, they will go to a CRM system. On there, they will actually fill in some basic data. That basic data will go into Campus Solutions, into the continuing education model. They may actually go into our application form that we have on top of the continuing education model to actually buy the course there. They may be speaking to a sales officer that is actually working through a CRM system to get the information in. Or, as mentioned, they may actually be part of a file that is delivered by a company saying these are the 50 people that need to actually do this course. Now, in all of those cases, as you can see in the model towards the bottom of the screen there, there's one thing that is crucial to us, and that is we need to get everybody clean and reconciled before they actually enter the model. So any way you come into our model, you'll always be managed through search match, and you'll always be going through person staging. And as you'll see in a moment, because this is continuing education, and in many cases it revolves around a relationship between a person and an organization, we are actually also managing organization staging and organization search match. Because if you're going to invoice a company, you better know that it's the right company that you're invoicing. So search match is available in this model, both for person as well as for company, to make sure that whatever we get into our model in the end is the right data to the right people. Now, because of the fact that the model, of course, is also delivering information, in this case product data, that product catalog data can also be pushed out towards, for instance, a CRM system or a website for you to also be able to publish whatever you would like to sell. So as you can see, multiple ways of actually acting as the actor with the model through always a search match model, which is important for the information clarity and the cleanness of data, as well as actually the ability to push data out from a setup point of view into other sources like websites and CRM systems and anything else you would like to use to actually sell and productize the product that you have.
We have a question, and I think you may have answered it. Can an existing student log into campus and purchase a continuing ed item? How is search match performed to make sure there isn't a duplicate?
Well, very good question. Yes, they can certainly do that. No problem at all. They could even use their existing, if they have a user ID, they can actually use their existing user ID to sign on. And then we would know directly what their ample ID is, so to say. Sorry for the technicality here. But if we don't know who they are when they actually sign on to Campus Solutions, for whatever reason, when they are actually entered into the staging area, we are actually then matching them on the existing population of people that are in the database. And actually, if we find a match, then we'll actually enter the same, or we'll hook the same ample ID onto this person that is not known yet as the one that we actually knew before. The search match works in exactly the same way as we actually would do for online applications using AWS, or for everybody actually doing Campus Solutions for a longer period of time. Search match, of course, existed for a long time already in campus. We are utilizing it through the standard procedures. We are just actually using it as well to organize organization search match, which is something that we extended on. But the search match is the normal search match happening in campus, and that means that we can actually figure out if somebody, who that person is based on your requirements, like for instance, same email address, same first name, same last name, birth date, or whatever you would like to ask for.
Ernst, it might be a good idea for us to reference where we have added value into this whole model. What areas of the system have we, built some people code?
Well, let's say we have extended a number of things. We have actually altered almost nothing, I would say, but
Right.
we have, as you will see in a moment, we have actually additionally built a number of things around existing concepts to be able to manage the particularities that actually are there for some of the things that you do in continuing education.
Great.
So if you allow me, I will actually, if we go through the demo, I will point out where we are, and I will also actually comment then on where we have actually utilized standard, because actually if you look at it, and you'll see that in a moment when we go through the demo, there is actually the largest piece of our puzzle is actually standard functionality in campus solutions. So we have not actually done customizations on top of stuff, and we have not actually altered the domain business processes, which is why I also dare to say so easily that it actually coincides very easily with your normal standard programs for degree students, is because we didn't actually alter the business process. We just actually took a number of steps out. So welcome to our storefront. As I mentioned, the application form that actually belongs, or that is actually linked to this storefront, is one of the ways that you could actually let applicants buy and apply for particular courses for continuing ed. As mentioned, and I think it's important to say that, it's one of the ways that you can get the information in. I've got customers who actually are utilizing an external website. At INSEAD, they are utilizing Salesforce. There are multiple ways of managing the applying of students for particular pieces of education. This is one of them as well. This is our storefront where you can actually go to without actually signing on. You don't see any sign on here, and there is no sign on top of this. This is just a public page in PeopleSoft where we actually offer our products. And in this case, we actually have a student who would like to buy photography for beginners, as well as another course that he actually has chosen, which is photo video editing. And once this person has actually chosen what he wants, and he can, of course, you can offer as extra options, you can offer other courses that are related, which you can set up to be related in with tags as such, so that you can actually sell or hopefully upsell your program as such. Once everything is in the cart, the person can actually proceed to checkout, where he then actually is asked to either create an account for Campus Solutions, log in with an existing account, or actually check out as a guest. So in the case of checkout as a guest, he doesn't actually create a user account. We technically do create a user account, but the person actually never sees he's being created as a user account. And once the transaction is completed, we actually will delete the user account again. But it allows at least for a for a checkout experience in which you don't have to create a user account, even though it's only actually a first name and last name and a password. Some people actually feel it's nicer that you can just actually quote what's the word here, without being known, anonymous, actually sign out. Now, if I actually would sign into this particular form with my existing user account here, then you will see that the system will recognize me and will actually pull my data that it actually has in the system already for me when I actually start my application for this particular course. So I'm signing into Campus Solutions. From this moment onwards, I'm actually known. We are actually now in the application form where you can actually define particular pages, where you can actually ask information from this person, and then of course ask this person to actually manage the fees and manage the finance. And there's a difference between fee and finance in my head, because for me, the fees are actually to tell the person what he needs to buy and actually ask if there's any discounts or anything that you would like to offer this person as a special discount for this particular person. The other piece is very important. Who is going to actually pay for the education? When we look at continuing education, in many cases, the person that actually is studying is not the same person as the person who is actually paying for the education. It may be their company, it may be their mother, or it may be their friend, or it may be a part of it is paid by the company, a part is paid by the person itself, a part is paid by somebody else. So the payment as such is completely separated from the person actually studying the program. That is a very important concept in the model, because as mentioned, in many cases, there are organizations involved in the buying of this particular education. Now, whatever you put on these forms is actually your own choice, of course. You can enter a small amount of data, you can enter a large amount of data. To be honest, in my perspective, I would actually ask little amount of data, because you would like to get your product sold as quickly as possible. But of course, if you would like to ask more information about what's your work experience and what's your background and so on, you can. It all depends, of course, on what you're selling at that moment and what the prerequisites are for somebody to be able to buy that particular education. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole form today, but I want to actually just jump into the next step of the process, because I'm aware of time and I want to actually try to show you everything.
Ernst, while you're doing that, a question came in.
Please.
Are we offering the opportunity for a student or a person to define personalized learning journeys?
Yes, I would say yes. Yes. Yes, depending on what people think about that, so to say. Yes, and you will see later on why I say yes, because actually if we look at where we actually store the information about what the person has bought, so to say, we are looking at program enrollment. So in program enrollment, you always have the ability to actually define what you would like to actually study. At the moment, the product doesn't offer a solution to say, I'm going to plan out what I would like to buy in the future, so to say. So at the moment, it just actually stores what you have bought. But from a technical point of view, it's not a problem at all to actually ask the person to prepare or to plan what he would like to actually buy in the future, and then with that, create his own path. The other piece to it is as well that, as you will see, we're also able from a sales perspective to say to somebody, how about buying a particular certificate which consists of 6 courses? So instead of selling single course units, you're then going to sell a particular certificate that consists of 6 courses, and that 6 courses then are rendered or are actually created as the package that this person has bought, and then over time the results of this person studying those particular courses in that package will become true. So it's either the institution offering a package deal with a number of courses required for the person to get a particular certificate, it's the person actually buying the single courses. And yeah, it's an interesting thought to say, okay, how about offering a kind of a, let's say, cart model whereby you can already prepare yourself or define what you would like to do in the future and see where that takes you. Now,
And then an add-on before you get into the demo.
Please, I'm clicking along this, people know that this is Pivot Grid, so I can click along and then we can go here. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, and then system supports single sign-on, and I know the answer is yes, because it's just the existing campus solutions instance.
Yeah, the answer is yes, exactly. Yep. If you have single sign-on enabled for your system and people would go to the sign-on page, you would actually, or they would, yeah, you would actually be able to recognize that they were already signed on, and then you can actually pass them onwards to the form directly. Yes, yes, exactly, yes.
Thank you. I'll be quiet now.
Yeah, no, absolutely, please. There's important questions to ask, so no problem to answer them. Now, I actually went into the staging area for a transaction overview. As you heard me say a number of times already, and you've heard Hendricks say the same thing, Carole as well. The whole idea of the particular module is around the concept of a transaction. A person buys a product, and that is in essence a transaction. So those transactions have over time different categories, different statuses that you can define as an institution yourself. Now, the main ones that you need, at least we would actually think, is staging, where you actually have a person that is still in the staging area, either through a file or through a web service or through the form, and he is not yet recognized as a search match as the person that he is, and he doesn't have an EMPL ID yet, so you have to actually go through that first. Can be done automatically, of course, but in case that there's a search match question, you have to validate if this person is really a new person or not. From staging, you go to creation, where you actually can start the transaction, and you can actually then manage the process up till the point that the person actually is really going to attend the course. You may have to wait for the person to actually pay for the education that he would like to have, because if he doesn't pay online and you're going to send him an invoice, as you heard Carole say, are you waiting for this invoice to be paid before you actually enroll the person for real? Are you going to enroll him, let's say, conditionally until the moment that you actually get the payment in, or how are you managing that process? So at first, we actually are, once you are through staging, you enter into the creation piece, and where you are actually a real EMPL ID with a real transaction. Once you are completely through, let's call it the admissions process, even though it may be a completely automated process of half a second, you actually then are a posted person who is going to be enrolled, and then you are also actually moved with your data into the program enrollment piece, where we actually store the educational data that you're going to be doing, so that we can also grade you afterwards. Now, just to check this for 1 second here, then if I go here, I can actually go here. And this page is a page that we actually created. So this is a page that works on top of existing functionality around Campus Solutions constituent management, where we actually can have constituent staging information, which is purely vanilla, where we actually have the ability to actually look at the personal data of a person. And if he doesn't have an ID yet, because we didn't recognize him yet, then of course he's actually going to be stuck in search match. In this case, the person was recognized and the ID was updated to be an existing ID, because the person that actually tried to do an application was known by the system and recognized to be a person that already existed. Now, as said, the personal data on top here is important, but if we look at the bottom of the screen, there we see the rest of the actual model. This person is buying a particular product. In that particular product, there is a particular event. And with that, we also have the people paying for this particular education. And in this case, there are 2 people actually paying. There's a person paying and there's a company paying. And for the company, as we mentioned, we actually have company find match that we actually are utilizing to figure out if this company already has an external organization ID, and if not, if there are matching organizations already in the external organization table that we would like to use to actually create an existing organization, or would we like to actually create a new organization for the company that is now actually paying for this education. So the company piece, as mentioned, is really important to us, because there's so many of these particular companies that are actually buying education for students. So from a payment point of view and student financials point of view, the organizations are really important. Plus, as said, if your parents pay, if your wife pays, if your friend pays, or anybody else, we would also like to be able to satisfy and have that managed so that you can actually pay on behalf of another human being. And all of that, as Carole mentioned as well, without having to go through the third-party payment functionality, which with all due respect to third-party payment, is not the most simple process and ideal process for this kind of, let's say, volatile transactions. Now, if I just jump back to the creation here for 1 second, if I go to a created account here and I grab this one, and I got 2 lines here because we actually have the, we got multiple products here. So here we go. So once you are through Search Manage and you go into the person transaction, you're at the heart of the model. Here we are actually making a relationship between you as a person who is buying a transaction. What are you actually enrolling for? You're enrolling for photography for beginners, which is one of our products, as well as photo video editing. And those are actually managed in time using events from campus and community events. And with that, we also have the payment information, and we know that you're going to be paying by invoice, not online, but by invoice. And in the payment information, we actually notice that it is a company and a person, and not you, that are actually going to be paying for this particular transaction that you're actually doing with us. And from this page, and it's very important to mention this because for many institutions, student financials seems to be quite a difficult module with lots of screens. This one screen manages it all. It manages the posting of payments, the posting of charges, the billing of charges, the printing of invoices, the entry of payments if they are there, and the reversal of charges if necessary. So all of those transactions, which normally are taking place in a number of screens all over student financials, and in some cases require third-party payment relationships to actually keep the relation between people paying and people enrolling, all of that is managed in these 2 screens. And with that, as such, as Carole actually mentioned, which is going to become more and more important for every country, I would say, around the world, as continuing education becomes more important, taxing is important. So taxing actually manages everything around the tax that this particular person needs to pay for this particular product bought in this country while he or she lives in another country or even another continent in the world. Now, the enrollment piece, as said, actually manages itself around events. So we are utilizing event management in Campus Solutions to store that this person is going to be attending this particular event that is happening. We have a number of meetings. If we have multiple, then we'll have multiple meetings. In this case, it's an online course, so there's only 1 meeting because we're not really meeting in person, but there are multiple transactions possible whereby the person actually is going to be meeting up in a room as well. And the status is, of course, configurable. And with that, we can actually indicate that this person was really attending a meeting in the case that we need to do that for the company, or if he is only, quote, quote, at the moment invited. Now, if we change this status to enrolled over here, because, for instance, we have seen that payment has come in and actually has been processed by us manually, or payment has come in and actually been loaded into student financials, excuse me, and therefore automatically the information is updated in student financials, we can then actually say, okay, this person, 1, has paid for the course he would like to do. Secondly, he actually has enrolled or he has indicated that he would like to come. That could be a 3C item, it could be just actually the person sending an email, it could be you calling, or it could just be the fact that he actually paid. That is purely up to you as an institution. And once this person actually is enrolled and we indicate that there, then the transaction status moves to posted, and then we actually are able to move towards the academic progress tracker, because in the end, we're not keeping everything in the transaction status. No, we're moving over to continuing education program enrollment. So note that this person still doesn't have an application, still doesn't have a program and a plan, but he is now available in academic progress tracker. So we are actually tracking his progress, in this case for 2 courses within program enrollment. And because we're in program enrollment, we're able to actually give this person a grade, for instance, or at least some form of evaluation at the end of the course to say, yeah, you did great. And if we don't even want to do that, at least we can actually keep a track and a history of everything that this person actually ever bought with us. And everything that we sell is in one tree. So everything that we sell, or sorry, not even one tree, doesn't have to be in one tree, can be in one tree, can also be in multiple trees if you have hundreds and hundreds of courses. But more importantly, what I wanted to point at is like this, for instance. This is a premium coaching pack that actually delivers 20 hours of individual coaching together with 2 different courses. If the person wants to buy the package, there's a package deal, it's less expensive, he gets individual coaching, plus he gets the 2 courses. So you are flexible in the way you offer your products, either as packages, as single courses that are online, single course that are actually in person, combinations of those, individual coaching. Everything that you would like to sell, you can configure as different items that you would like to actually manage with that. So you can easily go through the different elements and actually go and access the, you can actually access the different elements, of course, in your tree. Now, conscious of time, as always, I am just going to actually step into this piece over here for 1 second. So everything that we do is actually in the end an item, so to say, and those items are actually stored within an item tree. And we are currently working on a more user-friendly, I would dare to say, way of actually creating these items. But for now, I'm just showing it to you over here. We are actually storing all our products in a tree. And all of those items actually have maybe a parent or may actually have particular elements. They can have particular rules attached, which actually are belonging to money or belonging to prerequisites that you may have. And of course, I can have a course description. But more importantly, almost, I would like to say, we have additionally added a number of things which are required for us for continuing education on these items. So we are indicating at the level of the item of what we're selling the product, what type of instruction mode it is, what the total amount of money is that you actually have to pay if you want to do this particular product, how it's possible to pay, if there's a certificate attached at the end, if there are external product IDs, if it's possible to be published already, what the marketing photographs are that you may want to, or icons are that you might want to actually show if this person would utilize this particular product on your own website or when you're actually showing it on our storefront. We can indicate at the level of the product fees what type of fees we have, which then in turn on the back end actually map to particular item types that you can utilize to make the relation to your financial system. We actually can have product tags in there, and those tags can of course be used in all kinds of ways to inform people, to also actually do an upselling and actually make sure that you are able to effectively market the courses that you do. And why am I not seeing my little icon? I was going to say, and if I actually, but I'll go in over here, doesn't matter. I wanted to go over here, that was it. So, and then if I actually just go to that one for a second here. So at the level of the actual event, we are scheduling this particular product to be sold at a particular time. And that could be, let's say, an in-person event that is happening, which actually takes place on one day or a number of days. Could be an online course, which is available from any day till any day, unless the person actually drops out of the online course, so to say. Depending on what you have as a requirement, you can actually have particular elements on that for your event. And in your event, of course, we can also store what is some attachments that there are. We actually have the ability for the financial details to be overriding the financial details that are at product level, because this is the once happening event for that particular product that actually could happen over and over again. We have the attributes that we can actually add to it, as well as the product tags. We have the template to actually define the different meetings that are happening if you really are having physical meetings, so to say. And jumping back to this one for a second, this is also really important. In the event, we are able to map and give you a one-to-one mapping to an existing class in the system. And with that, we're able to actually give you the idea, sorry, not the idea, give you the ability to sell your existing classes for your existing courses in the course catalog as continuing education products. And in that way, we're actually utilizing whatever you want to sell, both as products as well as offer as courses to students who are doing a degree education. You can map those two and actually merge them into one source of revenue that you get from this. So you can actually make a one-to-one relationship between this event, a specific class number, and with that, you have two different sources by which people can enroll into this particular product as such. Given time, I think I'm going to stick with saying that tax regulation is really important. Tax regulation is actually something which more and more people are actually focused on. And as Carole actually mentioned, there is a tax model linked to all of this, which allows you to configure your own tax rules. And be careful, degree education in most countries in the world is not taxed, but non-degree education is actually in many places in the world taxed and will become taxed in more and more places because of the fact that the volume of the market is actually increasing majorly.
Thank you, Ernst. I do have a question, recognizing time. We've got a couple of minutes before the top of the hour.
Yes.
If our institution requires a matter, MATR row, to
Yes.
automatically have an institutional account made available, is there a way to resolve this without muddling up the regular student data?
Yeah, well, the one thing is I'm not going to create a matriculation row because that is going to muddle up everything. So what I would then in that way suggest, and this is where extendability actually comes into play, we have the ability to actually make a configurable extension with code on top of the core model that we have to manage these kinds of things. So we would be hooking up a status in your transaction to say, once you are sure that this person is coming and therefore you would like this person to get an institutional account, that we then would actually say, okay, with that status, we'll trigger that same process as that otherwise would be triggered when a matriculation row exists, and we'll push out to actually ask for an institutional account. It's really on purpose to say we're not managing admissions, we're not managing student records, because the biggest problem for continuing education is not so much that we can't get the data in, but nobody ever closes the records afterwards. You have thousands of people who look like they're active, but they're not active anymore. They clutter up your reports, they clutter up your database stuff. So we are not moving into the programs and the plans, but we have a very simple way of actually extending our model with your business logic to create those accounts at a particular status in the transaction process model.
Perfect. And this is actually a follow-on question to that, I think, and it was certainly something that was asked by somebody in the audience at Alliance. So is this continuing education version of Campus Solutions another instance of Campus Solutions to my institution?
No, 100% no. This is your production system, I would say. Well, this one is not, but let's say you have only one instance, and you only need one instance because you have two worlds living nicely together, but living apart. You're literally having a lot relation, as we call it in Dutch, a living apart together relation in your database. So we are all in the same database. We are utilizing all the same concepts and the same integrations and everything else, but we'll follow a different route to the goal. That is it.
And that's hugely important from a cost perspective. We're working with a number of U.S. institutions who already have their PeopleSoft licenses, and so therefore there's no additional licensing cost from a student information system perspective. So anybody that's using a third party like Destiny One or whatever, that is not necessary with this configuration. So there's definitely some cost and technical risk associated, or less cost and technical risk associated with this system. So I'd like to thank everybody. We really appreciate your time today. Hopefully this was valuable. We'll make the recording available, and certainly please feel free to, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change presenter to me. Feel free to invoice me or Ernst, and we would be happy to answer any of your questions. And I'll leave this screen up a little bit longer before we close the session, so that you can write our emails down. Carole, if you're still on, thank you again. We really appreciate this time late in your evening. Ernst, obviously appreciate you, and the audience. Thanks for attending.
Thank you for attending. Absolutely.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and close the broadcast. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers.